Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Welcome to Courtside, a celebration of the spectacular moments from the U.S. Open throughout the years. A place where past champions...
And I will take you and the memory of you with me for the rest of my life. Thank you.
Current players...
Got forehand, Sabalenka's in, cuts off a backhand volley, pass is good, and Coco Gauff, at 19 years old, is the United States Open champion.
And the sport's greatest storytellers give you a peek at life behind the net.
The person on the other end said, "Is this Mark Woodford?" Yeah, I said, "Yes." And, "Hi, this is Martina Navratilova. I was wondering whether you'd be interested in playing doubles with me at Wimbledon." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, who is this? Who really is this?"
This is Courtside, the official podcast of the U.S. Open. Here's your host, Marc Stern.
Hello and welcome to Courtside. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we have a great show for you today. We'll talk to legendary coach Jose Higueras about some of the coaching do's and don'ts, and I'll chat with Blair Henley about some recent winners on the Far East leg of the tour. But before we get to all of that, let's get to some news and notes from around the tennis world. And we'll begin with Rafael Nadal. The Australian Open announced on X, formerly known as Twitter, that Nadal would indeed be playing in the tournament. And while that seemed pretty definitive, Nadal tweeted back that he's practicing and making his way back after sitting out virtually all of 2023 with injuries, and that he hopes to be able to play. Understandably, there's a lot of excitement to see him back playing, but let's temper that with the understanding that he's not a kid anymore. And when we all want to see it, it may not happen. I'll talk a lot about this with both Jose and Blair to get their thoughts and also about what his return to the tour would mean. And speaking of the Australian Open, they also announced that both Naomi Osaka and Nick Kyrgios would be playing. And neither player has spoken out to say they won't be there, so let's hope that that's true, and that should make for an exciting tournament. Now, Osaka, the former world number one, has won 4 slams, 2 in Australia, and hasn't played in over a year, taking time for health and family as she welcomed her first child last year. And she just celebrated her 26th birthday this Monday, October 16th. So happy 26th, Naomi. We are all excited to see you playing again soon, and congratulations on all the wonderful stuff going on off the court for you. As for Kyrgios, let's not forget that he won the doubles title there 2 years ago with Thanasi Kokkinakis, and he is always one of the most exciting players to watch in any tournament. So let's hope that this does come true and they're both back out there. Another former number one player, though, has no plans on returning to the tour, at least for right now. That's Garbiñe Muguruza. Remember, she won Wimbledon and the French Open a few years back, but she hasn't played since last January. And when asked about what her plans were, she said, quote, "My plan right now is to sleep, rest, be with my loved ones, make up for lost time. I don't look beyond what I'm doing today, tomorrow, and this week." Garbiñe, that sounds like a pretty solid plan to me. Enjoy it. You have earned it. And I'll still hold out some hope that maybe we see you back on the tour at some point. All right, back to what's going on the actual courts. We had a lot of winners to announce. First of all, congrats to Jessica Pegula for winning the Korea Open. Congrats as well to Iga Swiatek for winning the China Open, to Leylah Fernandez for winning the Hong Kong Open, Zheng Qinwen for winning the Zhengzhou Open, and to Hubert Hurkacz for winning the Shanghai Open. I'm going to discuss all of these in greater detail with Blair in just a little bit. Up next, though, I will chat with former top 10 player and one of the greatest coaches ever, Jose Higueras. But before we get to that, I have a special treat from a very good friend who also happens to be a brilliant musician. His name is Dan Bern, and he wrote this song specifically for the show. He listens to every show. So, Dan, thank you for doing this. The song is about the crazy interactions between players and the people in their box. It's called A Box Full of People, and here it is.
I need a box full of people to yell at when I mess up. I need a box full of folks at whom to scream. My coach and my physio, psychologist, my accountant, my manager, and my mother and dad. What are you doing? Why do you just sit there yelling and clapping and whatever? I'm down here suffering, sweating and stuff. Verdammt man, ich booked voyage. I need a box full of people to scream at when I screw up. I need a box full of folks at whom to scream. My coach and my physio, my psychologist, my accountant, my manager, and my mother and dad. Mon Dieu, you are of no help at all.
Dan, thank you so much. I hope that brought a smile to everyone's faces. And let's keep that smile on your faces with our next guest. He's one of the great ones, Jose Higueras. He's next here on Courtside.
There's more to gaining advantage in tennis than a blistering serve. That's why the USTA works with Deloitte. See how we help it elevate fan experiences, advance business strategy, and more at Deloitte.com/USTA.
Drink Evian, the source of refreshment for your body and mind. Born in the French Alps, our water starts as snow and rain and travels through layers of glacier rock, where it gets its naturally occurring electrolytes for a cool, crisp taste. Mountain-made minerals, from alpine glacier rocks to you. Evian, live young.
This is Courtside, the U.S. Open podcast.
I am so very happy to be welcoming Jose Higueras back to the show. He's been on with us a bunch of times, and despite that, Jose, you got to deal with my very long and flattering intro of you because you really are one of the great ones. A terrific singles player, number 6 in the world when you were playing, was your highest ranking. You won 16 titles. I believe you were a 2-time semifinalist at the French Open, and that doesn't tell the whole story because you went on to become one of the greatest coaches of all time. Amongst the players you have coached, Michael Chang, Jim Courier, Roger Federer, Pete Sampras, just to name a few of the amazing people that you've helped get better. And you were also an instrumental part of player development with the USTA. I love to tell people, oh, are you excited about this great group of young American players? Well, Jose Higueras is a huge reason that we have this sort of renaissance bubbling up right now. So, Jose, with all that said, you're also one of the kindest, nicest people. And when I grow up, I want to be Jose Higueras. So, Jose, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Well, thank you, Mike, and thank you for your kind words. I think we got to speak more often. You're always so nice to me. So I really appreciate it.
No, it's good. Well, you've got such great insight in the game from so many different angles. And you also, which I didn't mention in the open, one of the greatest sense of humors of anybody I know. So it's always fun to chat with you.
Thank you.
And I guess I want to start off in the news that kind of broke this week, I guess if you can say that. The Australian Open tweeted out, Rafa's going to play, and then I guess Rafa said, hey, I'm working and I really hope to be playing there, and thanks for the confidence in me. But it does look like all things are pointing to him competing in the Australian Open and then hopefully being able to compete on the tour and play the tour on some level next year. I just want to get your reaction to that kind of news.
Well, obviously, it will be a great situation if we see Rafa coming back at the Australian and then being able to play a good amount of the schedule through the year. At the same time, I think Rafa is pretty realistic and cautious, and his response, I thought it was great. Understand that he's been only hitting balls for a couple of weeks and not full workouts, just progressively getting his body into the workout mood. So, practicing and playing matches are two different things for whatever reason, the tension on your body, whatever it is. But I think at Rafa's age, everything is possible. It's possible that he comes back and he's able to play a good amount of through the schedule, and it's possible that he comes back and he has another setback. So yeah. I'm cautiously optimistic, and as a tennis fan, I really hope that we'll see him at the Australian.
I echo that 100%. Just as a fan of the sport, just greedy. I want to see a little bit more of him.
Yes.
So let me ask you to put your coach's hat on. And I know you're not a coach of Rafa, but if you were coaching a player and they're coming back from a significant injury and maybe they're a little bit older, what kind of things would you be looking for to say, yeah, we can move forward with this, or like, no, I'm not really seeing it? Or is it just case by case? There is no sort of template to work off of.
Obviously everybody's body is different. I'm a big believer of not playing until you are ready to play. because if you are not ready to play, you go play. Couple of things can happen. One, you can have a setback. Two, you have no chance of winning because the competition is so good. So my number one rule is, okay, am I ready to play? And if you're ready to play, then the green light goes on. And then I think you gotta ease your way into the competition. I think it's pretty tough actually for Rafa just to start playing at the Australian Open, first tournament, after not playing for a year. So hopefully he can get a couple of tournaments before, a couple of lower level tournaments that gives him a chance to actually, him and his body, to start getting those good feelings about being out there and playing at that level. But having said that, once again, if his body is good, that's the main thing. If there are some reservations, then I will definitely be a little more careful.
And it's funny as you're saying that, it makes me think that even Rafa, who is one of the greatest people to ever play this sport, but as you go through different situations, even a player that accomplished, you're still looking for confidence when you get out there, because now you're testing your knee or your hip or whatever it is, and I got to think confidence has to be the supreme ingredient for you getting back out there. Absolutely,
and confidence comes from winning.
Right.
And different players are different. There's sometimes there are some players that they can take a few weeks off, a month off, and jump into a tournament and pretty much play the same as when they left. Some of the players, cannot take that longer period off and then feel confident or comfortable playing again. So coming back from an injury as long as Rafa has been out, I would think ideally for him will be to get 2, 3, 4 tournaments that gives him a little bit of chance of actually start winning matches and getting some of those good feelings, coming back to him again.
Well, Jose, I could put this together. If he needs confidence for beating somebody, I can schedule some matches, and I'm pretty sure he can take me out if he needs to feel better about himself.
Me and you both.
Rafa would look at me and be like, I actually need to break a sweat when I do this, so maybe not.
Well, I'll tell you what, winning is important. I don't really care who you beat, but winning is it feels good. So
yeah.
So I think I wouldn't care too much who I play. If I need some wins, I want to actually put myself in a situation where I'm going to get some wins, and then build from there.
Well, there's nothing like live competition, because you can grind it all you want in practice, and you can even have a great hitting partner or a great, almost play realistic matches, but it's really a different feel completely when it's an actual match in an actual tournament, right?
It is. It's interesting how sometimes how you can practice 4 hours a day and go at 110%. And then you play a match the next day that you win 2-1 and get up the next morning and be sore.
Right.
And that it kind of tells you a little bit the tension that goes into the matches is obviously you want to practice like you play, but you can never mimic 100% practicing as you play.
No, that's so well spoken. It's 100% true. Well, let me keep you with your coach's hat on. And I guess there's a couple of things I want to talk to you about with Wim Fissette, who's going to be Naomi Osaka's coach. Well, actually, I'll just dive into that right now. So he used to be Naomi's coach, and then when she stepped away, he was working with other players and actually working with Qinwen Zheng of China, who made it to the quarterfinals of the U.S. Open, and I believe is in the finals of the Zhangzhou Open right now. A really terrific player, but Fissette said, I'm going back to Osaka. Sorry, because Naomi's coming back next year, or at least going to be attempting to. And Zhang was kind of upset. She was like, I'm not really happy about this. And right. I know with doubles players, sometimes somebody else will call you up, and famously, and you can hear it in our show Open, Martina Navratilova calls up Marc Woodford and says, hey, would you like to play doubles with me? And he's like, it's Martina. Sure. Why not? But that can upset your doubles partner. And I think in that case it did. Is there an etiquette for moving on from a player so you don't have ruffled feathers and sort of upset the community? Or is it just, again, it's like every situation is different. You kind of have to navigate the waters differently.
I would think that, every situation is different. I have my own set of rules when I was coaching, and The first rule was having clarity on their relationship. So, for example, if you're talking about me working with Osaka, and then Osaka, she kind of, she's gonna have a baby, whatever it is, and then I'll start working with another player. But at the same time, my mind is still to going back to Osaka. Then
Right.
I want to relate to this other player. Hey, I love to help you, but you have to understand that if and when Osaka comes back, I am going to go back with her, because that was our understanding. If there is no clarity on that, then you more than likely have a situation like you have now, that somebody gets their feelings hurt and is not very happy. So before you start a relationship, once again, that's the way I've always done it. I'm a big fan of have 100% clarity on what the relationship entitles, and then from there you minimize the possible conflicts that can come as time goes on.
Communication is always the key, right?
Yes. I mean, if you went to this what is her name again?
Zhang.
Xiang, yeah. If she went to this kid and said, hey, listen, once again, this is my situation, love to help you, blah, blah, blah. And then the time comes when Osaka comes back, and I'm ready, and he comes back, then there is no reason to get your feelings hurt, even though you may not like it, but it was clear from the beginning. To the contrary, if that wasn't clear, then you can see how the player can get upset. Because I personally don't like to leave a player for a better player or a bigger name player. That's something that if the player that I'm working with, if everything goes well, he or she are doing what needs to be done, and everything goes well, then I don't see that very ethical from my perspective anyway, to actually leave it from somebody else until that runs out of time.
Yeah, because I got to think that a relationship between a coach and a player, I mean, it's got to be very strong and very trusting, and like, we're on this path together. We're going to go down it to get you to, as great as you can possibly be, sort of on tap everything. Right. And there's so much trust involved in that. It's different than, a lot of other relationships you might have with a player or something like that. It's almost like, hey, we're riding shotgun together on this road.
Yes. I mentioned that to you before. And it's something that I don't like to just go in saying that, but one of the reasons that I never signed a contract with a player was because of that. Was because I wanted to be clear about what the relationship was about, and if one of the two parties didn't end up to the side, then I didn't want a contract to bind me to keep doing something that I didn't want to do, or the player didn't want to do.
Sure.
So once again, I think every player kind of works a little, every coach works a little different, but I'm a big fan of being clear and having clarity on their relationship with everybody's responsibilities and how you get into a relationship. So the communication is a must, but I can see both sides. I can see if the coach didn't tell the player that he was thinking about going back to the old player, because when she was ready, I can see the Xiang, just getting not being very happy. But at the same time, if it was clear from the beginning, then she may not like it. But that's very clear that it was going to be like that.
Well, yeah, setting the level of expectation and just ground rules and saying, look, it's almost, well, this is going to be absurd analogy, but this is what I do. But it's like, yeah, I've been playing with Paul McCartney, and he's taking a break from tour, and I'll go play with some other people. But then when Sir Paul comes back, I'm going to go play with Paul because he's the next Beatle, Yeah. So, but everything, I think you're right. Being upfront about everything. I mean, that's the key in so much in life, but particularly in this relationship. Yeah. If you just say it up front, that's going to eliminate any concern and any worry down the road.
Yes. I think clarity is the main thing on that, from my perspective, anyway.
So there's another issue that I see a lot of time, and again, this is from my cheap seats. I've never been a coach, I've never been a player, but one of the warning signs, again, to me about a player is when I start reading news that like this is their third coach in a year or like 15 months or something like that, and that tells me boy, they're really grasping for something and they're not listening to the voices the way they should, or that just seems to be an area of concern to me. Is that, as a coach, would that be something that would really kind of put up warning flags for you?
Yes, it does. I mean, if a player change coaches that often, I don't think he or she can be that unlucky that all the coaches are bad. So maybe there is something that he or she, can look at themselves and I mean, you need time. I mean, a coach like a player, you need time to actually get used to different concepts, whatever it is that you guys are working on. It doesn't come overnight. Sometimes it takes 3 months. Sometimes it takes 6 months, depending on the age of the player. It takes longer. So I think I love to see long-lasting relationships. To be honest, I think it says a lot about the player and the coach. But obviously, the way the tour is going, the way the world is, I don't think is the way. I wouldn't feel comfortable. Let's put it that way. If I establish a relationship with a player of a history of that had 3 coaches in 1 year, I wouldn't feel too safe about my chances either.
Right. And I'm sure they'll start off with this best of intentions. It's like any relationship. You're like, no, that was before. This will be different. And then if the same issues prop up, you're like, maybe as a player, you should look in the mirror and figure out what's going on with you instead of blaming your coaches all the time.
Yeah, but I think, Mike, it also comes down to clarity. What is like for example, with all the players that I work with, I never hit a tennis ball before we spend a couple of hours going through what we're talking about. So there's got to be some understanding and about what the process is going to be, and so on and so on. Otherwise, I mean, if I establish a relationship with a player that I think he or she, they need to make some adjustments that are going to take time, I'm going to have to relay that to them. And whatever it is, you got to be clear enough to, first of all, to ease the player's mind, because otherwise, as soon as they lose a couple of matches in a row, it's your fault. But unless it's clear of some of the things that you're trying to do that down the road they're going to make them better, then conflict obviously comes a lot earlier.
And that's why you're one of the greatest coaches of all time, in my opinion.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Jose, this is also, we're at the tail end of Hispanic Heritage Month, and you are part of the amazing Hispanic representation in the sport of tennis since the get-go. I mean, I would go back to Pancho Gonzalez and, as one of the all-time greats, all the way through Rafa today, or Carlos Alcaraz. And this is kind of a dumb game. It's like a sports barroom question, debate. Who's on your Mount Rushmore of, whatever, football players or tennis players, whatever. And I thought it would be neat to get your pick, your Mount Rushmore of Hispanic players from all time. I know I'm kind of throwing that at you, but what would your top 4 Hispanic players be of all time?
The top 4, obviously, Rafa will be at the top.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would like to put more than 4, but I'm gonna put 4, and then I'll say the other names.
Okay.
Pancho Gonzalez, I believe, was a great player and a great competitor. I'll probably put in there. There is another Spanish player, Manolo Santana.
Oh yeah,
which I thought he was an exceptional tennis player in terms of what you can do with the tennis racket and with the ball. He was unbelievable, and he won all the slams also. So I thought he was great. And then you have Carlos Alcaraz, which at his young age, I think he probably has a spot there. And having said that, then you have Guillermo Vilas, which actually you can replace Alcaraz from Guillermo, because Guillermo, I think he still has a few more slams than Carlos. But then you have Manuel Orantes, you have Pancho Segura. You have a bunch of great Hispanic players. Juan Carlos Ferrero, Carlos Moya, Albert Costa. So, but I think
Juan Martín Del Potro, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many there are so many that is, like I said, I think the 4 is almost a little bit unfair. But I would think it will be tough not to put Rafa there and Pancho Gonzalez, and I think Santana, and those are different times. So it's kind of
sure,
it's kind of difficult to actually do that. But at the same time, because of their competitiveness and what they did, I mean, I think you're pretty safe with Guillermo, with Rafa, Pancho Gonzalez, and who was in Carlos. I mean, once again, but those guys are pretty close. It's pretty close to put somebody number 5. Where everybody can be 4.
Right,
in the top 4. So.
No, I know. If I'm remaking Mount Rushmore, I'm going to make it with a lot more heads. But yeah, it's almost impossible. I think, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head, Gustavo Kuerten was another guy.
Yeah, another one. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's what I mean. When I say the rich tradition of Hispanic players, I mean, and by the way, we're only talking about the men. Like we just focused on the men, and it's you can't think about tennis without any of that. And I say this in all sincerity, and you're going to think I'm just blowing smoke, Jose, but I'm not. You could be on that list because of all the contributions that you've done to the sport, and not to mention the fact that you were number 6 in the world. You won 16 tournaments.
I definitely wouldn't put myself unless I put a lot of things together. But besides my playing ability, I have to put a few other things that I think I contribute to the game. And with pleasure. But there are a bunch of people that actually have contributed to where the Hispanic tennis is today, which I think is in a great place, to be honest.
It really is. Well, Jose, I could talk to you for hours, but I don't want to destroy your entire weekend by chatting with me. But it is so great to hear your voice. Thank you so much for taking time. Just be well through the rest of the year, and I hope to catch up with you soon, my friend.
My thank you, and hi to all your listeners. And anytime you need me, you know where to find me. All right?
I sort of feel like Jose's Batman, and if I just use a searchlight to put a big tennis racket up in the sky, Jose would come running. Who knows? But honestly, he has one of the greatest tennis minds you'll ever encounter, and it is always a genuine pleasure to chat with him. And speaking of genuine pleasure, that's the exact same way I feel about our next guest, Blair Henley, and she'll be with us next as Courtside continues.
Drink Evian, the source of refreshment for your body and mind. Born in the French Alps, our water starts as snow and rain and travels through layers of glacier rock, where it gets its naturally occurring electrolytes for a cool, crisp taste. Mountain-made minerals, from alpine glacier rocks to you. Evian. Live young.
There's more to gaining advantage in tennis than a blistering serve. That's why the USTA works with Deloitte. See how we help it elevate fan experiences, advance business strategy, and more at Deloitte.com/USTA.
This is Courtside, the U.S. Open podcast.
I say this all the time when I welcome Blair Henley to the show, that you can actually hear my smile when I welcome her on. That's because I'm looking at her, not face-to-face, but, through Zoom, we're face-to-face, and it makes me happy. It's impossible not to smile when I welcome you on. You are such a delight to talk to all the time. You have great stories and great knowledge, and you are one of my favorite people I get to hang with. So welcome back to the show, Blair.
Well, thanks, Marc. It's all mutual. This makes me so happy. And as you know, I love talking about tennis. So we all win.
It's a good spot. Yeah, this is a good spot. So there is much to catch up on. I want to start out with, though, because we were chatting just before we started rolling here. I'd forgotten that you were at Laver Cup. And I got a chance to talk about this with Gil Gross in the last episode. And we kind of focused on, I guess we'll call it a flap between Felix Auger-Aliassime and Gael Monfils, because Gael was kind of under the impression that this is an exhibition. I'm here to entertain the crowd and have fun. And Felix was like, I'm treating this like it's an ATP tour event. And nobody really sort of sat down on one side and said, this is exactly what this event is. So before I get into sort of how was that event for you, what are your thoughts on it? Is it an exhibition or is it a real tournament?
Well, first of all, who would have thought it would be a flap, so to speak, between Felix and Gael. I mean,
Right.
You could have given me 100 guesses and I wouldn't have gotten to those two.
Yeah.
You know what? I do think, though, that there are many fun things attached to Labor Cup. There are the special events that go along with it. There's the team aspect, which, though I think adds extra pressure when the players are on the court, it makes it seem more fun when they're off the court. And I guess I would say I think multiple things can be true. They can have more fun. We can have these things that make Labor Cup special, and I still think players can take it seriously on the court. And the players who've played Labor Cup before, I think, do take it very seriously on the court. Right. For Monfils, this was a new thing. So again, I don't know what the instructions were coming in, but Gael was going to get out there and do what he normally does, and Felix, who desperately needed some wins coming into Labor Cup, was approaching it differently. But I guess I would say, does it matter that much? I don't know. I just think people are wasting a lot of energy on what is it. And it's good tennis. I think, even though Team World won pretty easily this year, I have told many people who have asked me, which, if you were going to say buy tickets to, one event or two events a year, which ones do you think? As a fan experience, there is nothing like Labor Cup. The attention to detail, the audio visual component, like just the intros. I did them 3 days in a row and got chills every time. I mean, the ribbon boards that they have, it is unbelievable. The fan areas, just getting to see players in a slightly different capacity when they're on the bench. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a little bit different, a little bit fun, and I think you can take it seriously and also have it not be exactly like a tour event, and I think that's okay.
That's why you're the wisest person I know. Maybe it doesn't need to change. Maybe it just is what it is. And I know, personally speaking, last year's Labor Cup was first and foremost in my mind because, okay, we're going to watch Roger here for maybe the last time, and it turned out it was the last time. And to see him paired with Rafa, like that just gave me chills just watching that. And, it is, like you said, it's a great opportunity to see these players in a unique format. And it's not like going to a tournament where it's going to take a while for these people to play each other because they're going to work their way through the early rounds. Like, you're seeing it right up front, right at the beginning. So yeah, I think there's a lot to love about it. And I think my favorite thing, Blair, and again, I learned this last year, you're seeing some of the B-roll of, Roger walking around after one of the matches, whatever. And there's Rod Laver, where there's a little rocket right there. And he goes up to Roger. And I probably mentioned this on the show before. And he just says, "Hey, I just really want to thank you for letting me be associated with this." Roger's like, "What, are you kidding me? You're Rod Laver. You're like the greatest ever, man. Like, we have to honor you." And I just love the sort of hierarchy of all-time greats, that as great as Roger is, he looks up to Rod Laver, so there's always, and I'm sure there's somebody that I don't even know about that Rod Laver's like, "Oh no, that guy was really the best. That's who I look up to." So I love that sort of chain, how that goes.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, Bjorn Borg and John McEnroe, John in particular, makes Rod feel so special. Every time Rod is in the vicinity, John, who is a larger than life personality and who can absolutely take up all the space in the room, he defers inevitably to Rod if he is anywhere in his general area, brings him over, engages him. It's really special. It's what, I don't know. I feel like special is overused in sports, but it really is. It's really neat. And Rod, still has a sense of humor. Even the younger guys who obviously don't know Rod, they didn't see him in his playing days, but they also, watching Rod present the little mini Labor Cup trophies this year, they did that. Historically, they've done that later on. This year, they did that after the initial on-court trophy ceremony. They all get to take home these little mini trophies that are beautiful, and Rod is handing those out. And to see, Ben Shelton having this moment with Rod Laver, it's really, really cool. And for me, in my job there, what I do for a Labor Cup is the behind the scenes cell phone content, which is not something I do anywhere else. And it's funny going from the US Open, where I'm in a far different role, And
right.
then
The voice of God. You're the voice of God, among
yeah,
many
and
other
doing the
things.
encore interviews. And then I go to Labor Cup and I'm hovering behind someone with a cell phone in my hand. But I do, the reason that has been a valuable position for me, and hopefully I bring value to them as well. But it allows the players, first of all, the players end up being more comfortable with you because you are in such close proximity, which I think helps whenever you see them in a post-match interview on a big stadium court. So I think there's value in that. But also just sort of seeing them in that looser capacity, I think is, again, helpful for me as somebody who wants to ask questions that are interesting and different. So being able to get to know them in that sense is really great. And then just being able to see the team, the players, Archer Feast, who a lot of people didn't know well coming in. He had such a fun personality, and watching him become, bench buddies with Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, those sorts of things are really neat. And then seeing, you think about the gala event where they're all in their tuxes, and of course Felix is part of the House of Dior and is wearing this amazing Dior suit, and all the other guys are like, well, we feel like we look okay but not good compared to Felix. And they're all watching them, they had sunglasses for them. We had Tommy Paul, and I asked, so quick anecdote here.
Yes,
the night
please.
before the gala, I said to Taylor Fritz, who the talk of Team World coming into Labor Cup was that Taylor had just done this runway. He walked in the Hermes show at New York Fashion Week, and it was excellent. Like, it was unbelievable the way, he looked, his shoulders were back. The whole thing, I was like, wow, that was extremely impressive. And so Taylor and I talked about that when he landed. And I was like, they can't, because last year they were calling Francis Fashion Week foe because he also made several appearances at New York Fashion Week. So last year at Labor Cup, it was Fashion Week foe. This year it was Fashion Week Fritz. But I asked Francis before the gala, I said, hey, if the opportunity arises, would you judge a walk-off between Tommy and Francis? And he said, shockingly, I was not expecting a yes. That's one of the things in my line of work. I just hopefully nicely throw something out, and they know me well enough that they can say no if they don't love it. And they also trust me if it's a little bit out there, but they're like, okay, this is gonna be fine. So Taylor says, yes, I will judge a runway walk. So the moment presents itself on the black carpet at the gala. Tommy and Francis understood the assignment and took it very seriously.
This is big time, yeah.
You have Tommy, who apparently studied Taylor's runway walk and said, it's all about the speed. Like, I know it has to be brisk, it has to be fast. Francis was a little slower, according to Taylor, walked with his head down, which was not frowned upon. So yes. Tommy won the walk-off. There are those sorts of moments, and to see the camaraderie between those guys, I think there's nothing like it. I again, in my line of work, being able to show off the personalities, Hubie going miniature golfing, or Andrei Rublev being Andrei Rublev, which is like a constant stream of content. He's hilarious and just so lovely in every way.
Right.
That's my passion. That's what I love. And so you see a whole lot of that at Labor Cup. So it was a very long story to say it's different. And I feel like tennis is a little oversaturated right now. Getting into, constantly having the almost 2-week Masters 1000, there's just a lot of tennis happening. And so when the tennis can look maybe a little bit different, I think it's good for tennis as a whole.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it is so important for the sport for us to see those personalities come out, because the sports landscape is crowded, and, you're going to watch what you want to watch based on who's playing. And if you're like, man, I can't get enough of this person because I saw them do this thing at Labor Cup, oh my God, it's going to get you that more involved. And in terms of your role there, I always thought one of the hardest things, again, I say this is somebody that did post-match interviews very poorly. But the hardest thing I always felt was they didn't know me. Like maybe I would have some holdover from, they remember me from City Open or something like that. But for the most part, people, they wouldn't know me. So they're very guarded because they see somebody with a microphone in their hand. You're the enemy. And they're like, what am I don't want to say anything that's going to give me trouble. I don't know where this person's going to try and take me in a conversation. Even if it's only a couple of post-match interview questions, they're still very wary. But once they know you, their guard drops down and they really come alive and they open up. Daniil Medvedev is my shining example of that. Once there's a level of trust with somebody, you start to have great conversations. So I think it's, and I go back to the WTA tour finals in Fort Worth a couple of years ago. Some of the amazing stories you told me. And I seem to recall the story about Barbora Krejcikova with a cowboy hat and like being like the funniest, coolest person out there. Like I adore her now. I think
Yeah, because we know her as a person. There are fans out there who for sure can say, "Oh, I love the way Andre Rublev hits a ground stroke," or Barbora's backhand is technically perfect, and that's why I love her. But most people are gonna say, "I love X, Y, or Z player because of their personality on the court or something they've seen on social media." That's what really bonds people for life. It just is.
No, that's so true. It's funny you mentioned Hubert, and some other people in the 1,000 level events. And Hubert wins. By the way, he beats Andre Rublev, and that was the Shanghai Open. Sorry, there's like so many tournaments that just ended the last couple of days. I'm trying to keep track of them all. And that was another thing that we were talking about before we started rolling. Is so both tours are in the Far East right now, and it's got to be. Listen, it's always exciting playing in a tournament and playing in a 1,000 level tournament or whatever. But man, there's just no break in the schedule. You go from everything in the US Open and Laver Cup, all this stuff. And it's like, nope, now you got to be over here. And that's not, hey, we're driving up I-95. It's going to take a couple hours. This is like across the globe, and where a lot of players are probably out of their element and there is no real break time. I guess the only real break in the tour is like the last 2 weeks of the year, right? Just before New Year's. Am I accurate in saying that?
Yeah. And that's if the players aren't playing exhibitions.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure that's when they're like, hey, now you're free. Now we need you to do this. And I get it. That's the sport. That's the life that you have to lead with that. But do you think that maybe we should temper that down and give players a little bit more of a breather on tour?
So what you said at the beginning is you're having a hard time keeping track. Yes. I where are we? At what point in the tournament? Also getting used to those longer masters or the longer 1,000 events that's also thrown me for a little bit of a loop. I don't love that. Personally, I don't love the longer masters events. Hubie actually said it. I don't know if it was after he won or en route to his title, but he said, I think most of us were okay with the way that it was. If you're winning, it's fine. It's great. You can't complain if you're winning. But if you lose early, knowing that tournament has another 10, 11 days before it ends, and then everybody sort of moves on, it makes it tough. I understand it's more days where you can sell tickets, but if there is a supply and demand problem in tennis, again, there are other issues that need to be solved. But if the market is saturated and people are like, I don't even have the capacity to watch more or to buy tickets for more or whatever it is, I don't think that's a great thing. And also, if the Masters look just like the Slams, I also don't think that's a great thing. So
right.
There, I think, are going to be many question marks as this sort of plays out. And next year it becomes more of a thing with Cincinnati, although next year will be an Olympic year, which will also throw things off. But again,
let's throw another
There's so much. And Dasha Kazakina said on I believe it was in one of her vlogs, I have not watched the entire thing, but she said that tennis is the worst sport in the world when it comes to logistics. And I don't think she's wrong, but the thing that I have to qualify it with is the logistics, and the fact that they're bananas is part of the reason why it's the leading women's sport in the world.
It's true.
And on the men's side, also, there's more earning potential the longer the season goes. So it is a privilege in some ways that people all over the world want to see these players compete. And yes, it provides more earnings opportunities at a time when players, John Wertheim just reported that the WTA is hoping for something similar to what the ATP did, which was guarantee a certain amount of income per rankings bracket. And so the WTA is wanting that same thing. So you have these issues. People want to get paid more there. And so it's almost like the logistics are sort of the tough logistics are a necessary evil to give the players what they want. But if the players aren't healthy, then you know what I mean? It's what comes first, the chicken or the egg, and the whole thing kind of devolves and it's a mess. I don't know. It's a tough question.
Well, we had the big discussion about the mental health of players, just a couple of years ago. That was the big topic. And I agree it should be an important topic. And I think part of that, it's not just how you're dealing with the media after a match, which was really the focal point of a lot of those discussions, but it's just the mental well-being of players. And if you're, and I get it, if you're in the grind, you're like, look, I got to go to all these tournaments because I've got to make my living and I've got to go. Or they just be like, look, I'm a fiend for this. I love it. I love being out there. I know there are players like that, but it's also, and this is true with anything in work. And I'm the biggest guilty guy of anybody, because I never take vacation. You need a vacation. You need a break from the things you do professionally. Even if you love what you do, you just have to give yourself a chance to recharge. So, I'm not saying, hey, let's just play the majors. We don't need anything else. But there's got to be a better life-work balance is what I would say to the powers that be.
Yes, as somebody who just about keeled over having to repack my whole family for a Disney World trip after July, August, and September, where I felt like all I did was pack and unpack from tennis events. I don't know how they do it, because this was about the end of me. But I was like, you know what? I can't get soft. Can't let myself relax too much. Let's go to Disney World.
Let's do it, kids. Oh, that's so great. I remember going to Disney World as a kid, and it was like the coolest thing in the world. I can't imagine how much better it is now, because I'm 700 years old. So things have changed. By the way, we're talking about all the tournaments. I just want to run through these. This is what I got on my sheet right here. So Zheng Qinwen wins. She beats Krejcikova in the Zhengzhou Open. Iga wins the China Open. Leylah Fernandez wins the Hong Kong Open. Jess wins the Korea Open. Hubert wins the Shanghai Open. That's a lot of tournaments. There's a lot of WTA stuff, but and they weren't all like on top of each other, but that's in the last couple of weeks. It's just a lot going on. I want to highlight Leylah's win, because she will always have a spot in my heart for that magnificent run. She comes up short and then loses to Emma Raducanu in the finals. And I told her this because I got to speak to her at the U.S. Open, as it was her and Taylor Townsend in the doubles. And I said, listen, the speech you gave that day, because it was the anniversary of 9/11, like 20 years. I was like, this blew me away. Like, you don't understand. Like, there are people who are your fan for life now because of that. So I always secretly root for, not sometimes secretly, sometimes very loudly. So I know it has not been the path she wanted after that great run, but it's wonderful to see her get this win in Hong Kong. Don't you think?
Oh, for sure. And yeah, as you said, she's had a bit of a tough go, but she is one of the more dynamic players on the WTA tour to watch, and to me, the sort of the litmus test for that is, I just think if I brought someone who had never seen a professional tennis match before to watch a match, she's one of the players I would want them to watch, because even if you know nothing about tennis, there's something about her energy and the way she celebrates and reacts that is really entertaining to watch just at baseline, whether she's winning or losing. So yeah, incredibly happy for her. I hope it's the first of many more great results to come, but huge. Love it.
Yeah, no, that was good fun. And this will seem strange for me to say this about Iga Swiatek, who has been so dominant in the last couple of years. She wins in China, but I thought it was a really cool moment for her, because obviously, her performance in the U.S. Open, she didn't go nearly as far as she wanted. But she still had a terrific year. Anytime you win a Grand Slam, I think we can consider that to be a great year. But it's nice. I guess my point was, a lot of times we've seen players rise up to that top level, hold on to it for a brief period of time, and then everyone catches up and they sort of lose their focus and they drop off. And you're like, okay, is this starting to happen maybe with Iga, because there is a lot of good talent out there. And it was nice to see her sort of knuckle down and get this win, because, man, I love watching her play, and I really want to see her rack up a lot of majors, just because I think she's got that capability.
for sure. I mean, it was a tour leading 5th title on the women's side, and in the final she played Samsonova, and as my friend Courtney Nguyen tweeted, also WTA insider, so she writes for the WTA site among many other things, but she tweeted the stat line of the final. It was 2-2, and her caption was startled baby.gif. And if you've seen the startled baby gif, you know it's where because she hit 0 unforced errors in the match.
Zero
unforced errors. And that, it was interesting. I think many people saw her en route to that title using some different tools. One of them being the fact that if she wanted to take her foot off the gas slightly and be more of a backboard, she has the capability to do that. She has the capability to come to the net more. If again, her volleys maybe aren't the strongest, haven't historically been the strongest part of her game, there's room for improvement there. And again, we saw that the more you come into the net, the better those things are going to get. And then I don't know, it scares me for everybody else, to be honest.
Right.
Because well, let's see what else I can improve on. Now that I'm not necessarily the hunted one at number 1, now that I can do a little bit of the hunting, I think it maybe changes your outlook on what you're working on the court a little bit.
Okay, this is going to be a terrible analogy, and I think I said this before in our previous guest when I had Jose Higueras on. I tend to make bad analogies, but leading like that for me is I'll reference I-95 again. If you're on a road trip up I-95 and you're going, say, faster than everybody else, you're nervous because you're looking out for speed traps, and you want to drive, want to be responsible while you're driving, but there's a lot of pressure on that lead spot. And so there's always somebody who says, oh, this guy's going fast, I'm going to go right behind him. And at some point you say, I'm going to slow down and you can lead for a while because I don't want to deal with all the stress of being in front. And I kind of always looked at being the number 1 player as sort of like that. You're dealing with everything, and from the media, from the players, everything. And so sometimes it's okay to be back from that a little bit to catch your breath and then take another dive towards the front. Does that make sense?
I love that we're talking about that like she's ranked like 100. She's just ranked just in case anyone doesn't know, she's ranked number 2.
She's 2. But
yes,
but so
I completely agree.
Thank you. And I do drive safely. And I'm not recommending people driving fast, just so we're very clear. Now, another person I was very happy with was Jess Pegula winning the Korea Open. Obviously that holds great significance because of her family heritage. But it gives me significance because, again, I think she's got one of the best games out there, but in the majors, she can't really get past a certain level. I don't think she's been past the quarters at a Grand Slam yet. And if I have that wrong, I'll correct this on the other side of this, but I think that's the case. And so when she pushes through and she wins tournaments, it gives me great hope that she is going to cash in on a major.
Yeah, I feel like it's only a matter of time for her, but I actually wrote down, sorry, my eye is uncontrollably watering. I wrote down.
I have that effect on a lot of people. I make people cry just with my face. Sorry.
This is what she tweeted for those who might not know her backstory after she won. She said, "This one's extra special. I'm half Korean. I don't speak and I'm still learning about my culture. My mom was adopted and left on a doorstep of a Korean police station, but I've been overwhelmed by the support from Korean fans. My mom visited her orphanage here when I played this event 4 years ago. It was the first time she felt open about learning about her past. Her health struggles this past year made this tournament a goal to win, and it's been such an honor to play in front of you," which, I mean, that's pretty incredible on all counts. Also, anytime somebody's like, I made this a goal and I did it, that's easier said than done. So props to her in many ways. And I imagine that's very cool for her mom who is doing better, but still isn't 100% from everything that Jess has said. So really cool story.
No, that is, and Jess is one of those people you can't help but root for. She's really cool to talk to. She's so talented, and that is spot on with it. And just to tag on to what you were saying about, when you set a goal and you actually go and achieve it, when you say something, I want to win this tournament, that's an awesome goal, and go and do that's incredible. It's why she's a great champion. For me, it's like, I'm going to eat this entire pizza, and then I do it and I don't feel great about myself. So it's about picking the right goals, people. That's what I'm here to tell you about.
That's so true. And along with my eye watering, I apologize that my neighbor is apparently getting their lawn mowed. So if that becomes you, let me know. I'll go source some headphones. I mean, What else? What else on this Monday morning?
Well, you know what? I'm waiting for one of my cats to jump on me while I'm taping it. That will probably happen in the next couple of minutes. Either Butch Cassidy or the Sundance Kid. I don't know where they are right now. So I'm going to get you out of here on this last question. And I did talk about this with Jose in the previous segment about the Rafa news. And I just wanted to get your thoughts. And I sort of asked as a coach, his perspective on if you were coaching a player, how would you, what would you be looking for? I know it's not definitive. I know the Australian Open was like, hey, he's going to play. It's like, I'm working at it. I'm playing, I'm practicing, I'm trying to get back. Just the prospect of him being back, though, just, again, that elevates me. You can see the smile on my face because, you think maybe we're never going to see him again. We hope we will. And now it looks like we might. So I'm thrilled about it. I'm a little nervous, but I'm thrilled. What's your take on this possibility?
I personally loved Stu Fraser's tweet after Craig Tiley exclusively revealed that Rafa Nadal will play in January. He tweeted it. It must be that time of year again when the Australian Open tickets are going on sale. and then he proceeds to screenshot multiple articles where we were told Serena is going to be back to defend her title, and then the next screenshot is when she withdrew, and then Roger was going to be back, confirmed for 2021, and then he withdrew. So I say, hey, listen, tennis needs all the promotion that it can get. And if that is going to pump people up, I assume that Craig had some sort of contact with the Nadal camp before volunteering that information, but which is great, I think. And then what Rafa tweeted, I think something along the lines of, thanks for the vote of confidence. I'm doing my best.
Yes, I'm working on it.
We just know that there are so many things that can change between now and then. So many things can change. Yeah. So listen, I sure hope it's the case. And if that is like pumping people up, great. But anybody who follows says, my only thing is, some people don't understand how tennis works and how tennis is. And so I don't love the fact that somebody could potentially buy Australian Open tickets this week thinking, I'm going to see Rafa, who doesn't totally understand that there are a million factors that could unfold between now and then that could change that outcome. That part maybe I don't love, but listen, it got people talking. And I generally in tennis think if people are talking, if Rafa is tweeting updates, I'm all for it.
I'm on board with it. And I know we're so far out from this, you can't project, but the possibility of a Djokovic, Alcaraz late tournament match, or Rafa or Djokovic, or Rafa and Alcaraz for that matter, or Medvedev, who just got to the finals again, any of those possibilities, you throw Rafa against any of those guys and that's a must-watch match. No, I'll tell you this much. It's a lot more fun watching news from the Australian Open in this way, as opposed to what is the legal status of Novak Djokovic, his visa. I remember waking up at 2:00 in the morning for the live courtroom feeds just so I could be like, what is going on with this? So this is much happier and much more exciting to do.
To that, I will say, #never forget. It was our international tennis. I don't know if nightmare is too dramatic of a word. And of course, here we go with the weed whacking outside. Apologies to all the listeners. But yes, never forget. There will, I hope, be nothing like that ever again in the history of tennis. But we can all say that we were there, if not in person, virtually.
Yes. Blair, I got to run because I got to go down and help finish up doing your lawn. So I'm going to do that. No. Thank you so much. I hope you do get a breather. I'm so glad you got a chance to go have a little time with your family, but it is always such a great joy of mine to get to chat with you on this show. So thank you so much. And I can't wait to have you back.
Always a pleasure, Mark. And you are welcome anytime to weed whack my house or my neighbors. So anytime you just come on down to Texas, we'll give you the tour.
Well, hey, I'm a big fan of the great state of Texas. I can't wait to get down there and work on my landscaping skills with your house or your neighbor's house. But whatever it is, I hope to get down there and see you guys soon. But it's always great catching up with Blair. She has such great stories and insight. Just love it. Well, that's going to do it for us today. So let me thank our sponsors, the USTA, for making the show possible. Let me also thank Jose and Blair for coming on. Let me also thank Dan Bern for his musical contribution. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. So until then, be well, and we'll see you next time.